These parents abandon their twins upon discovering they are deaf. Years later, they suddenly reappear. In the early morning darkness before early risers hit the jogging trails, Abby was already caring for her injured husband, Stephen. She tended to him with fresh bandages, and her first task after a satisfying cup of coffee was to bring joy into the day. Abby donned her work attire and left for her shift, ensuring to prepare breakfast for Stephen, a loving routine. Arriving at the garbage collection site for her workday, she unloaded the bins and tidied the area. A seemingly ordinary day took an unexpected turn when she came across an abandoned stroller in the middle of the road. Curiosity got the better of her, and as she looked inside, she couldn't believe her eyes. Twin baby girls were sleeping peacefully. Abby was overwhelmed with shock and concern, pondering, my goodness, who would leave their precious ones out here like this? She scanned the surroundings, but there was no one in sight. Taking action, she knocked on nearby doors, hoping for leads on the mystery of the abandoned stroller and its tiny occupants. Unfortunately, nobody seemed to have any information. Finally, Abby contacted the police, and Child Protective Services, CPS, became involved, taking custody of the children. Officer Barton asked her, "Did you find any information on the girls?" "No identification, nothing?" Abby admitted she hadn't. The officer, with a hint of cynicism, remarked, "You'd be surprised at the number of cases we handle where parents abandon their own. It's a sad reality. Why bring them into the world if you can't care for them right?" Abby replied with gratitude, "Thank you, officer," but her voice carried both gratitude and concern. Returning home that night, thoughts about the twin girls weighed heavily on Abby's mind. Were they truly abandoned? Her mind was filled with worries. Had something terrible happened to them? Were their parents in dire straits or, worse, lost forever? The idea of welcoming them into her family began to take root, even though Abby recognized she shouldn't jump to pessimistic conclusions. During dinner, she gently broached the subject with Stephen, seeking his perspective. She asked, "What do you think, honey? Would you consider taking them in?" Stephen responded cautiously, trying to be realistic. "It's a bit early to make such a life-altering decision, love. I don't want you to be heartbroken if, by some chance, their parents reappear unexpectedly. I understand how much you desire this, especially after our struggles with fertility." Abby understood his perspective, but couldn't help feeling a pull toward the idea of providing a loving home for the girls. As time passed with no leads on the twins' parents, Abby and Stephen were increasingly inclined to adopt the children. They longed to fill the void of childlessness in their lives and found solace in the thought of offering a loving home. However, an unexpected revelation awaited the couple. A social worker explained, "Because you already hold foster parent certification, the process should proceed relatively smoothly. However, there are still background checks and paperwork to complete. But there's something you should know about the girls." Abby interrupted with concern, "What's going on with the girls? Is everything all right with them?" The worker hastened to reassure her, saying, "Oh, don't worry, the girls are perfectly healthy. The issue is that they're both deaf." "What?" Abby exclaimed, her grip on Stephen's hand tightening. "They're deaf? That's heartbreaking." The worker continued, her tone heavy with the weight of the situation. "Many who abandon children often can't cope with any disabilities. Unfortunately, we see cases like this all too often. It's a sad reality. I'm curious, given the circumstances, are you still determined to welcome them into your family?" Sadly, many couples shy away from caring for a child with disabilities. "Absolutely not," Abby exclaimed, rising from her seat. "Our decision remains unchanged. We're more than ready to embrace them. Those sweet little souls deserve all the love in the world. How could anyone just?" Abby was crying in Stephen's arms before she could finish her sentence, feeling terrible for the little girls. She couldn't fathom how anyone could abandon them. Thankfully, they were granted permission to foster the twins. The presence of the twins brought a remarkable transformation to Stephen and Abby's lives. The house resounded with the music of their laughter and joyous cries, filling the air with newfound happiness that the couple had longed for. Abby took on multiple jobs to ensure they had a stable life, and everything seemed just perfect. Their days were filled with joy and contentment. 6 months later, the twins, now named Hannah and Dana, became the pillars that completed Stephen and Abby's lives. Their family felt whole, and they were beyond grateful. It had been a whole 12 years since Abby and Stephen adopted the twins, and life was moving along just fine, until a significant event came along that changed their lives in unexpected ways. During a family lunch, Abby's phone rang, displaying the name Bethany on the screen. Abby and Stephen had stable jobs with reputable companies at this point. "Hello. Am I speaking to Hannah and Diana's mom?" the voice on the other end inquired. "Yes, this is she. How can I help you?" Abby replied. "Great. Hello, Mrs. Lester, this is Bethany calling with some important information." Abby was stunned by the news Bethany shared, almost dropping the phone. In her astonishment, she exclaimed, "Are you serious? Her girls had achieved that? They really did. Oh yes, yes. Thank you, Abby, absolutely." Hannah and Diana, who had shown remarkable talent in sketching models and outfits since elementary school, were offered a $530,000 collaboration with a children's fashion brand for disabled children. The art teacher had been impressed with their skills and recommended them to Bethany, who happened to be a friend. Overwhelmed with pride and joy, Abby hugged her girls and shed tears of happiness. She conveyed to them using sign language, "Mommy and Daddy adore you both so much. You shine the brightest in our world. Today, you've made us incredibly proud." She detailed their achievements to the girls amid laughter and tears of joy. The family celebrated the occasion with a grand cake, and Hannah and Diana felt the weight of this milestone. They chose to accept the collaboration and kickstart their own venture instead of pursuing college. The twins were flourishing. Upon learning about the collaboration and their daughter's accomplishments, the biological parents of Hannah and Diana experienced a whirlwind of emotions. It struck them deeply, a blend of pride in their daughter's triumphs and a pang of regret for the years they weren't there to witness. In a heartfelt message, the biological parents acknowledged their past actions, and reached out to express their gratitude for the care the twins received after their difficult decision to let them go. They requested 50% of the significant contract earnings, as they were in a tough financial spot. Abby and Stephen promptly alerted the police and child services about the unexpected message from the twins' biological parents, just 3 days after reaching out to them. The biological parents agreed to meet before proceeding with any transactions. Abby and Stephen provided their home address the following day. The police and a child welfare worker accompanied them to meet Hannah and Diana's biological parents. Initially, the parents seemed glad at the prospect of sharing in their twins' contract, but their joy turned to frustration when they were served with a restraining order. The parents were sternly instructed to stay away from Hannah and Diana due to their legal adoption, with a warning that any further disruptions would lead to their arrest. Devastated by the news, the twins' biological parents came to terms with their situation. Weeks later, Abby and Stephen marveled at the success of the twins, reflecting on their humble beginnings when they had so little. They remembered the times when they couldn't even afford separate beds for their daughters. However, it was their boundless love and unwavering support that pushed the girls forward. Now, they stood in awe, having achieved every single thing they had once dreamed of and desired. What do you think about this story? Leave a comment below this video. Thanks for watching.